What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Spectator Sports Podcast. Today is June 12th. Oh my God, it is flying by already. June is already halfway through. Episode 190. I am here today with Brooklyn and Devin, the soccer analyst himself, Chelsea fan. And look at that beautiful hat that boy's wearing. We did sell out
Mm-hmm.
originally, but we are ordering more. If you guys are interested, make sure you DM us or message any of us if you want one. We'll probably be getting in another shipment in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out on that. Boys, how we doing today?
Doing good. And on top of that, Sunset and Paradise tickets are on sale now too at Spectators Media. Go lock that in. August 26th. See you guys there.
Request off. Do
And
what you
go
got to
and go
do.
get you a
Be
hat
there.
too. Pull up with the hat. You gonna look
Mm-hmm.
cute.
Sure.
You're going to
Come
look
on
great.
now. Look at him. Look at him.
You look good. Bite your lip,
How you
you
doing,
know?
Dev?
A little bit of velvet, a little bit of corduroy feels good on the scalp. You know what I
It
mean?
does.
Instantly into my
does.
top 3 hats that I wear.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm talking about. Devin, how are things? We had a busy weekend. As people know from you, you are a resident soccer footy guy around here, right? I know you had a game yesterday.
Oh.
Hopefully that ACL heals up well. I know it's not torn, but I'm not a
Yeah.
doctor.
Little,
But
little tender. Little tender.
exactly. How was your weekend? Did you enjoy some football and all the news that we got?
Yeah, when it comes to the season itself, it has come to an end. We just had our last game of the official season, the Champions League final. But as last weekend goes, when it comes to news and drama, it has been jam packed. As many already know, even if you're not a soccer fan, you must have heard some sort of wind of this. Is that Lionel Messi has agreed to join Inter Miami at the end of his contract with PSG. It ends June 30th, so he could initially um, get Inter Miami player as of July 1st. And their next game after that, I believe, is July 8th. So he's coming to America, and I never thought it would happen, but here he is. He is coming to Miami.
Really cool. I'm super excited for this.
And
As
it's
like
crazy. He's like
yeah.
the most popular athlete in the world, and he's just like joining the MLS, which is just the league who's been doing a good job. And we kind of touched on this before we go on live, but they've been doing a good job. It's been slow, it's been incremental, but as the years have gone on, they've become more and more seemingly legitimate, and fans have kind of noticed, and they've obviously added more teams and expanded to bigger cities, which has absolutely helped their case. And here's one of the expansion teams. I think they're the newest team. They joined it with Cincinnati, I think. I don't remember.
They joined last season.
Yeah,
Last season was their first season.
this is their second year, and now they're going to have probably the runner-up for the Balloon d'Or from this season, and
He might win it. He might win it.
he might win it. He shouldn't, but like he might, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
That the MLS might get the best player in the world from this previous season coming in. Shout out David Beckham for however in the world he made that happen. I saw some really good stuff. A lot of my input on this situation is going to be involving random tweets and like memes that I've seen about it. And one of them was just like, wow, somebody really had to teach David Beckham English to get Lionel Messi over here. It's like, he's English. He's British. You don't have, what are we talking about?
And the tough thing about that is Messi is not few players, but one of the bunch that actually knows zero English.
Yep.
So I think going to a team like Miami, it probably was one of the only options for him if he was going to come to the MLS. There's a lot of big Hispanic growing when it comes to fan base because that's Miami. You got a bunch of different Hispanic communities, but also a lot of the players come from South American descent, and there's a lot of players that were brought in from like Brazil, Argentina, pretty much all of South America. So yeah, and there's so much to break down when it comes to how this transfer came about, what makes his contract so unique. I mean, he signs for Inter Miami, and then he's instantly in the top 5 for the highest earning athletes in the country when it comes for all sports, and that's huge because MLS players are not paid like other American athletes. So it's just a revenue thing, The highest paid athlete, or at least MLS player, is Zerdan Shaqiri, and he's a player for Chicago Fire. And he's only making about 25, 26 million, and so Messi's almost making double that. What also makes that even more crazy is that in this day and age, for the best players in the world that kind of are on their end years of their careers, you're seeing them now starting to contracts to are taking taking contracts to play for teams in Saudi Arabia. It's a big thing now for players. Cristiano Ronaldo is probably one of the first ones to do it, or at least one of the most big names to do it. He's been playing in Saudi Arabia since January. He took a stupid money deal. He's making about, I want to say, like 100 million a year. And just in the past couple weeks, there's been other players already rumored to be joining Saudi Arabia to take similar money. We got Luka Modric, Real Madrid center mid. He's likely to join the Saudi Arabia for that much money.
Karim Benzema.
Kareem Benzema has already agreed. He's going to. He's
He's
going
making
to.
like 260 million a year.
Yeah. Um.
That's
So,
crazy.
and it makes sense. I mean, players that already these players have already achieved and completed the sport. I mean, especially
Champions
Messi. Messi's
Leagues.
won everything.
Yeah.
Messi's won everything. He just won the World Cup in December. Benzema and Modric has won the Champions League like 5 times. So yeah, they just might as well finished out their years just making a stupid amount of money. And Messi was one of them. He got offered like 120 million a year to go to Saudi Arabia. But what did he do? He took this offer from Inter Miami, which makes that insane because he already completed the sport. Might as well finish out money. But I think it was more for him. There was a lot of things that kind of lured him more to Miami. One, he already has a home in Miami, so he has a house. So he already has a foot in the states. So that obviously is more of a vacation home, but now it makes sense to go there. I'd imagine it's nicer to live in Miami than it is to live in Saudi Arabia.
Maybe a little bit.
Just
Maybe
me
maybe
though. I don't know.
maybe a smidge. Maybe a smidge.
Who knows? But yeah, and then there's also these rumors of not rumors, but there's leaks about what else his contract entails when it comes to his Inter Miami contract. As certain rights to Apple has TV has the MLS as like their sole broadcasting service who's going to broadcast the game. So apparently he has some sort of rights to um, some sort of share to the rights to Apple, the
He
amount of
gets a
money they make
percentage
on
of
broadcasting
sales.
percentage. Yeah, percentage of
Yeah.
sales. Um, he has some sort of apparently some sort of way to possibly create his own team for the MLS at some point, but that's way down the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this is a type of contract that's never been seen in the MLS before. I mean, there's this designated player rule in MLS where each team in the MLS can only have 3 designated players where they get paid more than the average of the rest of their players, and Messi already takes up the spot of like 3 players with the amount of money he's getting. So this is as big of an MLS transfer as when David Beckham joins LA Galaxy back in 2012, 2013, and that was seen as like
Whoa.
game changing. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's like the biggest ever
He was
player. I
he
mean,
was he
obviously
was the
there's been,
first big player to really make the move.
yeah, he was the first one to set the stone, and then obviously a lot of big players have joined since then, since in the last 10 years. So you got like Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Andrea Pirlo. So many big names now have come to finish out their careers. Um, yeah, it's insane, to see the growth of the MLS since then. Back in 2013, there was only I want to say there's either only 14 or 15 MLS teams. Now in this season they have already announced their 30th expansion team for their MLS, which is San Diego. So just 10 years they've doubled the amount of teams. So it's the growth for MLS has been insane. Having a player like Messi, even though he's older, it's crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
and
does a lot for the sport because now it's just gonna up the popularity of it. People are gonna go watch the games when he's in town as an away team. They're selling out. Ticket sales have gone through the roof. Let me pull that up real quick.
Yeah,
But
I want to say they're around 20
also,
or $30 to start before
yeah, now
going.
like those $20 tickets are up to close to $300, and
Seen some that were
it's
four.
insane. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure they're going up even more. It's nuts, and just to also add to the contract before I jump into those numbers, he's also getting a percentage of shirt sales, so that's sick, and ownership stake as well in the club. So an insane contract just to add to 50 plus million a year annually, and um Shaqiri, just to also add how crazy the money is annually for Messi. 8 million he's making as the
Oh, it's
highest
not
paid.
20 something.
Okay,
It's
so
8.
I
No,
oversold it.
that's yeah, 8 million. So
He was the highest earner by far before Messi, because
yeah,
like
yeah,
And I mean,
most MLS
nobody else
players
is going to
are
be
making
making this
around.
money either for a while.
Yeah.
Like there's unless they got a Neymar or somebody younger than Messi to come up that's still just as big, which there's only like 5 that you can think of. So like that's not going to happen again, but not only again with the money, but all those extra opportunities. And that's definitely why Messi was like, let me go to the States instead of Saudi Arabia. Instead of just getting this 200 million straight up flat, I could go 56 with opportunity here, opportunity here, opportunity there. And if the MLS becomes an upper echelon of competition at some point in time, which at this trajectory, it might, like, it
yeah,
truthfully might, especially with like the untapped talent that the States have always had with soccer. This could be a big deal where he winds up owning a team at some point, and now he has even an established group of fans over at Inter Miami, because that's how you create a good sport, by loading up a team. They become really good. Eventually, people hate them because they're the villains, and that's how you make more teams that people like. That's just how that works. So he's setting it up to where the MLS is in a really good spot. And I'm sure that was part of like the sit down pitch to him. Again, the 5th highest paid player in the States in any American sport is crazy. Which I don't know, Brooklyn, if you saw this list, it is a vile list because number 1 is Devin Booker and Carl Anthony
Yep.
Towns.
It's crazy.
Carl Anthony
Crazy.
Towns is making 56.1 million. I'm sick to my stomach, but that's just how that goes. The rest of the list is actually pretty good outside of Bradley Beal, so like it kind of works itself out. But
Yeah, and I have the percentage of the increase on ticket sales. So off the New York Red Bull tickets when Messi visits, prices increased 1,236%.
Who's paying for those tickets, bro?
who's paying for those tickets, bro? Rich people. It's New
The-
York. Rich people.
the
Spike Lee.
$29
Spike Lee gonna
ticket-
be there. Spike Lee gonna be there.
Yeah, the $29 tickets went up 1,000% up to 329, and then game on September 3rd is jumping up 420%.
That is crazy. And then while we're talking numbers too,
That's the Messi effect.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And that's what I was about to bring up. Since Messi and this news has gone, Inter Miami has gained 6 million new Instagram followers, had a
course.
4,500% increase in merchandise sales. They are now the 3rd best selling team, period, in the world on Fanatics. And they've had a 1,200% spike in ticket prices. So their revenue for this year is going to at least double or triple. And it's
Probably
their
triple.
second year as a team.
Yeah, and that revenue is going to be huge for them because we don't plan to stop at just getting Messi. Because we've paused. We do have to talk about how terrible this team is. By the way, Inter
They're not good.
Miami,
Yeah, they're not good.
They're awful. They have the record for the record for the most losses in inaugural season for a team. Like they've lost like 20 games, and that's like unheard of for inaugural season. I mean,
Usually
you
the
look at
inaugural teams are actually pretty good.
Atlanta United, their inaugural season, they won the MLS Cup. Like
Yeah, and they were
that's
dominant.
like
They were
yeah,
dominant.
and also obviously that's not like it's not common, but it's not common for a team to be so bad. So they can't just stop at Messi because Messi all this hype for Messi. Obviously they're successful when it comes to revenue because of Messi, but if they can't get the ball to Messi's feet because of how bad they are, like Messi's not going to be playing good either. So they're
No.
already rumored to be getting Sergio Busquets, a longtime veteran for Barcelona,
That's
a
sick.
great rock in the midfield. Um, and just that alone would kind of increase
Just their
their
chemistry.
midfield
They played together
tenfold.
for like 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. Every team needs a good base when it comes to goalie, center back, midfielder, striker, and if they get Busquets on top of Messi, they already have half of that going for them. Um, but yeah, so they still have a lot of work to do to even make this worth it for them, or at least worth it for Messi. Besides all of his money he's already making, but yeah, so they better. Obviously, they're in mid-season right now too, so um, I could see them. And there's already a lot of talk about they might not even make the playoffs so far because they're already doing so poorly. See the Messi effect when he starts playing in early July, but it's not looking good for them. I know Messi would not want to miss out on the playoffs, so see what he
How
can do.
long is his contract?
I didn't see years.
Not see the
Yeah,
years
I haven't.
either.
I haven't seen any years. But it's kind of funny with like them being so bad as an inaugural team because you look at the NHL and the couple of franchises they've added with like the Knights and the Kraken, they they're good off rip.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned with United and these other franchises that got added to the MLS, it's like Miami kind of got the slim pickings because you're just getting from a pool. So when you add these 15 teams in 10 years, there's only so much that a new team can get.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're so new, they kind of just got the short end of the straw. But then now you look at it this way and they get messy. It's like, oh, here we go.
I think a funny part of it too is that particularly in the US, everything is determined so much on championships and like winning and
Mm-hmm.
success that
Yeah.
bringing over Messi is really cool. But if he comes in and Inter Miami is as bad as they were last year for the next year, 2 years, it's gonna be like, wow, that Messi guy was never very good, was he? And it could be like a damaging effect on his reputation, truthfully, especially in the eyes of like the American audience. Obviously, everybody in
Yeah,
Europe knows how great he was, but now that he's here and we're spending this extra money and tickets are going for $400, and you go and he touches the ball 3 times, puts one shot on goal, and it was blocked because it sucked.
Yeah, I don't think it's like too detrimental even if they are terrible because you're getting eyes on you no matter what right now. And maybe it won't be too much of a like drop off and retention of those fans after he leaves, but you're still having them like tune in.
Yep.
So it's a win no matter what. But you just gotta hope that, like you said, you can get him the ball.
yeah. And I mentioned this earlier that MLS is seen as a destination for these big stars at the later ends of their career. Um,
Hmm.
Messi is 35. That is seen as old in the sport. But we got to remember that he's joining right now is June 2023. Next summer. Next summer is the Copa America that the United States is hosting. And Messi has not announced his retirement for Argentina. I'm fully confident that he is expecting to be part of that squad that will be at Copa America next summer.
And that'll
And
probably be
then
his last international stint.
I don't know, man. I can see him 2 years after that
You think he
with
would do
the
another World Cup?
World Cup. Yeah, I mean,
I mean, why not?
yeah, why
Like
not?
if
Because
your
he'll be
legs are still
39 years old.
I mean, and that's fair. But
That's
like if your legs are still
Ronaldo's
holding
almost
up,
40.
like go play. You're not gonna be the star of the team, but like go make a run at it.
I'm not
Why
saying it's
not?
like confirmed like he will, but if things
Yeah.
go well Inter Miami, he is still playing at a very good level, going to he's going to want to be at the World Cup. Every player
Yeah.
wants to be at the next World Cup. Um, Ibra just retired at 42 years old. Um, and
Yeah.
that's still 7 years away from Messi. And Messi has hit lengths higher than Ibra, not that much higher, but as long as he takes care of his body like Ronaldo does, because Ronaldo's seen as like the most fit athlete in the sport, and he takes care of their bodies, I can see Messi trying to be on the team at the World Cup, and it's at the best time. You join Inter Miami in the States, um, a few years before Copa America and World Cup, it's only going to do wonders um, for just the following in the United States in general because of these tournaments that the country's hosting.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. The U.S. just had probably its best team. It wasn't our best performance, but our best team ever in a World Cup. Um, and then you get Messi, and now the MLS is a full-fledged league because about 30 teams is where you consider them a real league in the States, right? You get 30 teams, 32 teams, you're legitimate. So you have a full-fledged league. It has stars. Then you're having the second biggest tournament that we could possibly host, right? Because we can't host Euros, obviously. So
Yeah.
Copa America, and then you have the World Cup, and it's like this snowball all leading up to the biggest tournament in sports. Period. It's a pretty good thing, and the craziest part about all that is that with that World Cup coming in, what is it, 2026?
2026,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll probably be there. So if you guys go to any of the games, make sure you're looking for some spectator media because we're gonna find a way over there.
Yeah,
We're gonna find a way over
absolutely.
there. I just want that out into the air right now. I want y'all to know.
Absolutely.
Be there.
And that's also the really cool part about all this. A lot of US fans are going to be watching Messi, and now they're going to have access to go to Copa America, go to the World Cup, go see Messi and all this. So now we're going to be looking at potentially more homegrown like US talent going directly to the MLS and elevating the game itself. And I don't know how much like Euro players would like come to the MLS
If the
over like
money's right.
if the money's right, absolutely. So it it just opens the door for the game to grow in the States, and
Yeah.
that's really sick all the way around.
Just a huge bonus on because I know we're saying like how big this is for MLS, but the MLS has, like I said, like the in earlier with it comes to where we were in 2013 to now, the
Hmm.
growth has been insane. The
Yep.
quality of the talent that the US has dished out for like the player base that we have is insane. We have so
Hmm.
many players that are playing in the best leagues in Europe. Um, we had the youngest average age of any team in the World Cup, and had a poor game against Netherlands in the round of 16. But who knows if we just if Christian Pulisic scored that in goal in the first opening minutes of the game, who knows how different this conversation could have been when it comes to the
Yeah.
growth of the U.S. But yeah, but I agree with you. This is only going to improve. Only because I can just imagine, new like a new audience. They see like, oh, the best player in the world is playing
Uh,
in the MLS. Let me go catch a game, and then by the time they start getting interested in soccer, like, oh, we're hosting a international tournament in the
mhm.
U.S. Let me go catch a game. Like, oh, let me because by the way, U.S. will be in that tournament.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, let's see how nice what our U.S. team is, and they start, you know,
Maybe make a run.
recognizing these players for
Yeah.
the U.S. And there's like, oh, want to keep following, and that's how it all starts.
That's how it
So
starts. It's
it'll
access.
only benefit this country when it comes to the sport.
And
Yeah.
I want to make a pivot, but I think it's in the same vein, right? So things, especially internationally, take a while, right? Because there's cultural barriers, there's obviously distance, time zone barriers. Stuff takes a
Yeah.
while sometimes. Learning the game, becoming familiar with it, caring enough. There's plenty of teams that I want to root for, and I just don't have like the care or to want to. So it takes something to kind of spark that. And that's happening in the NBA Finals right now. We have potentially the best international player in the history of the NBA currently playing in the NBA Finals against another team from Miami. Shout out to the Heat for their pretty improbable run.
Mhm.
But Nikola Jokic, that's a guy 20 years ago that there was a handful of international guys, Yao Ming, Tony Parker, like there was a handful of international players, Manu Ginobili, but now they're becoming way more evident in today's game with Luka Doncic and again Nikola Jokic, and he's the best player in the world. And he plays the game differently than we've ever seen it played. He's a big dude. He's not super athletic. He's a pass first guy, but he's able to score, be super efficient. And that's what happens when you have people from different areas of the world who kind of like ingest the game in a different way just from watching it. All of a sudden, the sport changes.
Yeah.
if Yao Ming and Tony Parker weren't players and pushing the game out to Europe and Asia, we'd probably never have a big man that ever played like this. And so that type of thing, to tie it in, could in theory happen in soccer. Obviously soccer is a little bit different where it's like harder to play unique because there's not like dribbling and or like, hand dribbling. So it's a little bit different. But say the ball gets rolling in the US and more American born players start choosing soccer because they say, "Oh, I can make 53.7 million a year playing soccer. I don't need to go to the NBA where everybody's 7 feet tall. I could be 5'6" and be the best player of all time. I could do that." So you start to get these players from a different pool and a different mindset, and all of a sudden now soccer evolves and it becomes something even bigger. And does that happen? I don't know. But seeing it happen with Jokic and seeing it happen with Luka Doncic and Dirk and all the fantastic international players
There's
in
a blueprint
basketball.
there. Yeah, there's
Exactly.
a blueprint
And
there
you
that
see
it
it in
could happen.
baseball too. Like guys come over
Yeah.
from Japan and they have different approaches to the game. And whether it's the way that they put spin on the ball or like throw strikes or like their approach as a hitter, like having international guys not originally used to like the way it's standard played is awesome for sports. And I don't know, man. Like it's definitely a tangent, but I see the
But also
parallels. I
like
see them.
the,
It's there.
yeah,
Well
but
said,
also
mate.
like international players become infatuated with the US just because of everything else that comes with it. Like yeah, soccer's the biggest sport in the world and overseas that's never going to change. But when you come to the US and just the marketing stuff, the advertisement, the sponsorship deals, just the way that you can get organizations and fans and states to just follow you, players are going to really ride behind that and maybe want to come play here instead of overseas, just like the NBA. You can go play Euro basketball out there. You can go do it, but they choose to come to the NBA. So it's definitely going to take a while. And I think within the next like 15 years, we're really going to see a whole nother turn. Like you mentioned um the last like 10 plus years have been really pivotal for MLS and the growth. Now you add that, you double it's only going to keep on getting bigger and it's really going to show true. And I definitely agree with you. It could definitely look like the NBA as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
games have
soon
changed.
soon they're gonna have to, because right now the MLS only has 2 conferences with 30 teams. They're pushing they might have to break it into 4.
Oh, they absolutely will. They'll have divisions. They'll do all that.
And that's what makes it fun. And then you have divisions. Now you have smaller rivalries, and rivalries become things that matter. Now those games get packed. Now they have money to spend. That's how stuff works. And I've said this for a couple years now for like the WNBA. I think the WNBA right now, they have 2 super teams. It's awesome for the sport because you either like the Aces or you like the Liberty. If you care at all. But if you're watching the sport, you like one of those 2 teams, you hate the other one because you're gonna meet in the
Yeah.
finals. And now it's like, oh man, I hate that team. Some team gets better at some point. Like that's just how it goes, and
No.
it makes
You
it's
you
one
don't
of those
even
things that makes
realize
sports
that you're
amazing.
becoming. You don't even realize that you're becoming a fan.
Dude, sports are
just
so
happens.
cool. It's that's kind of it. Sports are so cool because you just like it just takes a crumb, and for you to really enjoy it and be there and like man.
Or we're talking about the rivalry thing. I saw this hilarious post on Inter Miami's subreddit where someone's like, "Hey, new fan here. After huge fan of Messi. Who do we hate? Who are our ballers besides Messi? Is there an AC Miami?" This is one of the funniest things
Inter and
I can.
AC, no.
Inter and AC, bro. It's classic. Love
That's
that stuff, man.
classic. That's funny. AC Miami. Shout out Inter Milan for a fumble in the bag and not beating Man City. Nobody can seemingly beat Man City when we
Gonna
probably
segue into
should.
that now.
And,
Oof.
I didn't really watch the game. I saw it a little bit. It was a barn burner. I think it's the third 1-0 result for Champions League in the last 4 years. That's
Yeah.
that kind of sucks. That they've been
Yeah.
pretty anticlimactic the last handful of years. Are they back to back? Did they win last year also?
Oh, they did not win last year. Last year, Real Madrid won.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the well, say about the like these finals, especially the Champions League finals. This club, that's the highest level of club soccer you could get. The stakes are so high, and I'm a huge believer that in those cup finals, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes wins the game. It was a game where Man City started off poor. They looked not confident. They didn't look at their best when it comes to they're usually looked at a team that can absolutely dominate, ping the ball around in the opponent's half, like keep them into their box. But passes were poor, not accurate. Players making poor decisions. Um, it was entirely in Inter Milan's hands, and at least in the first half, to had a chance to get a goal, and they would have been in a totally different state for that final. But yeah, it's the biggest final in the world, and that's why you see these low scoring games for these finals because teams are so scared to mess up, and it's the nerves are insane. So you see a lot of like misplay in the middle of the field compared to like a standard league game,
Yeah.
Newcastle United versus Southampton, like
Where
scores
there's
like
just
5-3.
they're making crosses that are risky, but they're
Yeah.
like, hey, am I going? I kind of think
It's the
that
typical
sucks.
though. It's the typical if you play to not lose, you're probably gonna lose.
Yeah, and it feels
You
like
gotta just go for it.
the Champions League finals have been that way for a couple times. I know the PSG one we watched a couple years ago. That was the last one I watched like front to back.
That was in the that was during the pandemic.
Yeah,
PSG versus Bayern. That
yeah,
was that was a huge scoring game. Obviously Bayern. I think Bayern. I don't remember the score. It was a few years ago, but Bayern was easily up like three goals, and PSG bagged a few, but it just wasn't enough with the time remaining. But that was just a weird year in itself because
it was a strange year.
they had to host the
Mm.
they shut off. I mean they shut off all the season like right before the playoffs were going to start, or at least the tournament was going to start for the knockout rounds. So they had to
Yeah.
host all the games in like a remote
They
location
did
in,
a
in,
bubble
in
deal.
Portugal. Yeah, so there was a whole bubble deal in Portugal. It was a deal in itself. But yeah, shout out to Man City. Everyone, for the most part, everyone going into this game knew City was going to win.
Yeah,
They have been by far the most outstanding team this season. The amount of goals they scored, how dominant they've been in the Premier League,
their comeback
and
in the Premier League.
comeback. Yeah. If it wasn't for how brilliant Man City was, Arsenal truly did win the title, truly deserved the title, even though they let it slip to just how good. That's how good this Man City team is.
Yeah,
Is that Arsenal were so dominant, but they just weren't as dominant as Man City. And when you look at the points total, there was like a 20-point gap between second and third. So winning, not many teams can say that they have won the treble. Which, if you don't know what the treble is, you win your domestic league, your primary domestic cup, which in England's case is the FA Cup, and then the European title, which is the Champions League. So Man City have won their first treble. Manchester United has a couple. Real Madrid, Munich, they have a couple of those. It's a huge honor. It's literally a perfect season, if you will. So they've finally reached that. With how dominant and younger side this team is, this might not be their only treble in the next coming years.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, Holland is actually insane, and he's gonna be
Code. He's
a
literally a cheat code.
force for a while. I mean, he's just again, it's you see these guys that the sport has never seen before, and that's always going to be the case in every sport. Like just freaks of nature happen. And I mean, how often do we see a guy as tall as he is and as athletic as he is with as good of a touch that he has and like the power behind his shots? It's just like a perfect storm kind of a deal. So eventually, teams might figure out a way to slow him down because there's only
With
three guys
age.
in the history of the game that have never been slowed down, really.
Yeah.
So eventually it'll happen, but again, he's young. That team's young. It's a little scary.
It's frightening, actually. I mean, it's we it's crazy how we see, or at least how I see, comparing the English league to other, the German league, Spanish league, and how kind of one-sided the leagues are. I mean, Bayern Munich almost let their title slip in years, but they have won their, I think, 11th or 12th Bundesliga title in a row. PSG wins the league every year. Italy has become more competitive, but I like to say how competitive and best league is the English Premier League. Um, if you look at the last 5 years, I mean,
It's not
Man
the
City
case.
has
It's
won
not
the
the case.
four. Man City has won 4 out of the last 5, so it's a
And the
competitive
one
league.
year
But
they
Man City are
didn't
so
win,
dominant.
took a literal perfect season from Liverpool.
Yeah,
They didn't lose a game that
exactly.
year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
They
They
lost
drew.
only. I want to say they lost only 3 or 4, which is insanely low.
Crazy. Like they weren't dropping points. So it takes either a perfect season or like Man City's gonna win it. That's how it feels watching like the French league with PSG and Bayern and all that. So shout out to Italy and I guess Spain. They've kind of been a
Spain's more
little
competitive, but I would say the
more than
quality's
it's
not.
been. Yeah, the quality's not great. But shout out to Italy, I guess. Inter Milan and AC Milan both being good again. Took a while, but
Yeah,
welcome back. That's nice. It's not just Juve and Napoli anymore, which it was
yeah,
for a handful of years there.
yeah. Speaking of Italy, they took probably the hardest L of any country when it comes to these competitions. So besides the Champions League, there's so many European teams that they can't just have one European competition. Obviously, Champions League is the highest tier. That's the highest quality you can get. And then there's the Europa League, which is kind of like a step down. And then there's the Europa Conference League. So there's 3 tournaments, and the finals of each of these tournaments all took place in the last week and a half. We saw the Europa Conference League final being West Ham United versus Fiorentina, an Italian team. Um, Tam wins 3-1. Sorry to Fiorentina, wasn't good enough. Europa League final was Sevilla, a team out of Spain, versus um, Roma, a team out of Italy. Sevilla wins in PKs, another L for Italy, and then you come to the Champions League final. Inter Milan, Man City, and Inter Milan not good enough to win. So that's just 3 fat L's
One
for
week.
Italian teams. It's tough. It's tough out here.
It's funny that happens to Italy because Philly last year that happened to. It obviously different because different sports, but the Eagles lose the Super Bowl. Philadelphia's MLS team loses the MLS Cup, and then the Philadelphia Phillies lose the World Series. Now this year, the Miami Heat are down 3-1 tonight. Game 5 is happening. I fully anticipate they get waxed tonight. Like I think they lose by 25. They
Not
get
gonna be
ran
good.
out. They get ran off the court tonight, and then Miami
It's gonna be
loses
that
their
bad.
first. It's gonna be bad. It's not gonna be good. And
It's
then
in it's
all
in it's
And even
in
and even
Denver,
if
right?
they do win
I think
tonight,
it's in
they're
Miami.
cooked.
I can
Oh, I
check
think
that
it's.
real
I'm
quick.
pretty sure it's
It
in
is.
Denver.
Oh, it's in Denver. Yeah, it's Jover.
Yeah.
It
Jeez.
is
Even
Jimmy
if they manage to
Butlover.
win, it's the series is 3-1. It's not
Not
happening.
happening. Not happening.
Like just go ahead, end it tonight. Don't
Don't
scrap.
make this last any longer than it needs to be.
Uh,
Only
uh,
one team has ever come back 3-1 in the finals, and it was the
yeah,
best player of all time, having the
it's
best
not.
performance
It's
of all
not
time.
happening. It's not happening.
But also, the Florida Panthers are in the Stanley Cup right now. They're down 3-1, and they're going to get waxed in Game 5 also. So hopefully, Inter Miami turns it around and loses the MLS Cup to keep this, like, country city groove of losing going that we've had lately. It's been pretty fun.
Oh no.
If your team loses one of them, expect to lose all of them. Is the way that it's been the last year. So get wrecked Italy, get wrecked Miami, get wrecked Philly. It's pretty good. I'm here for it. Especially in the Heat. Jimmy Butler's not him. Bum.
You are jinxing all of just these.
No,
Miami
I'm not
sports
jinxing
right now.
I mean,
anything.
there's
No.
nothing to jinx.
There's no
It's
jinx.
chalk.
I almost
You can
jinxed
take it to
myself
the
a couple
bank.
weeks ago, and I know you saw it in our group chat. On here, I said that if the Heat blew a 3-0 lead, which is even more impossible, it's never been done, and at any level in the NBA, that if they lost a 3-0 lead, I would eat a shoe, and they actually almost did it, but they just really teased me. They heard it. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna mess with this guy. We're gonna mess with this guy," and I almost had to eat a shoe.
It was one game away.
It's not happening
Absolute
here.
scenes when Jew has to raid his closet for the shoe that looks the most appetizing.
Or
We
yeah,
almost had a shoe get sent in from a viewer. We talked about it, and it was thought about.
it was
It was
thought
thought
about.
about.
It was thought about. If I would have gotten sick, you did not sign any legal notes. You would have heard from my lawyers, but that's,
What would you have done? Would you have boiled the shoe, get a nice little pan sear?
Obviously, I
What are
can't
we
eat
talking?
it, like swallow it. So it would have been like we find a piece of a shoe and we just start chomping on
Right.
it. If I'm
Like a piece of
swallowing,
gum.
yeah, exactly. And I stick it under my desk.
Which I don't know if that's any better though.
it might be worse because now I
Like,
have to
just-
wear the shoe I ate.
Like just swallow it, get it over with. But now you
That's
gotta,
not coming.
Now you
That's
gotta
not
chew.
coming. It's not coming out.
I mean, it depends how big of a piece you eat.
I got a
We're
small.
not
I got a
talking-
small shoe size. I'm only an 8.5.
We're not talking about take a whole chunk out of it. like you
little nibble,
take a
dude.
bite out of
A
a
little
burger,
nibble.
dog.
A little nibble, dude. A
Little
burger sounds
nibble.
good. Burger sounds amazing right now.
Go crazy,
Devin,
man.
any last remarks on any of this before we head up out of here?
No, we pretty much covered a lot that has happened last week. If you want to follow on with the sport, we got USA Mexico later this week in the CONCACAF Nations League. It's a a game for the books. It's a big rivalry, so look out for that game.
Cool. USA Mexico. Keep an eye out on that. Again, NBA Finals tonight. I think the Stanley Cup's tomorrow. Those are about to wrap up, so we are pretty much 2-3 days away from it being exclusively baseball season and like F1, the occasional UFC fight. So expect a lot of baseball from us moving forward the next couple of weeks as we ramp up for some college football and some NFL, because those are just around the corner. September sneaks up on you. But again, if you guys are interested, make sure to DM us either at Spectators Media on any platforms, or personally, if you want a hat, you want to look like Devin, you want to look slick, you want to look suave like that handsome man over there, go ahead and DM us so we can get you one when we get that orders in. Sunset in Paradise, August 26th. Make sure you book the date, put it on your calendar. Don't forget, buy your tickets before the price goes up. I don't want to hear that you can't afford a ticket when we've been yelling at you to buy it now. So buy it now. And yeah, we'll see you guys there. We'll see you guys next week. Episode 191. Later, everybody.
Peace.